Hi everyone, welcome to Ms. Sawagid's math class. Today we will talk about solving a system of linear equations by substitution. Before we do that, let's review what we learned before about a system of linear equation. What is a system of linear equation? When you have two or more equations in the same variable. Watch how the first equation has x and y and the second equation has also x and y. To find the solution for the system of linear equation means to find what is the value of x, what is the value of y, that makes both equations true. Not one, both of them. And we also learned last lesson how to graph those two equations on the same coordinate plane. Where the two lines meet or intersect, that is the solution of the system of linear equation when graphed. So look at the two lines, where the two lines intersect, which is -3, 5. This is the coordinate pair, or the value of x and the value of y, that makes both equations true. That's why it's called a solution, because it solves both equations. And remember, there's only one solution, one value of x and y, which is -3 and 5, that makes both equations true. How can you find the solution of system of linear equation without graphing? And that's what today's lesson is about, substitution. To substitute, it means to replace. Think about your classroom when your teacher brings a substitute, which means she's replacing her with another teacher. And that's the same concept for substitution with equations. Now let's look at this example. Solve the system of linear equation by substitution. X equals 18, that's your first equation, and 2x plus y equals 10. That's the second equation. So now I need to find the value of x and y. They already gave me x equals 18. So what I do is I put 18 in parentheses and then substitute it instead of x in the second equation. And watch why I put it in parentheses all the time, because if you don't, it would look like 218, but it's actually 2 times 18 plus y equals 10. Now 2 times 18 is 36 plus y equals 10. Notice how now you have one kind of variable, which is y, in this equation that you're able to solve for. So let's solve for y. That means isolate y to find the value of y as a number. The inverse operation is to subtract 36 from both sides. You end up with y equal to -26. So the solution would be is the value of x and y as an ordered pair. They already gave me x 18. I found what y equals to, and I wrote it down as an ordered pair. And that is the solution. Equations gets harder to solve because they don't always give you the value of the variable as a number. So what do? I will show you the steps of solving a system of linear equation by substitution that works for any equation. Step number 1, choose one equation to isolate one kind of variable. Put the answer in parentheses and name it expression. Just like we did with the x equals 18, we put 18 in parentheses. Step number 2 is to substitute, which means replace the expression in the second equation, replacing the isolated variable. So make sure that you're replacing the isolated variable, otherwise you get your answer wrong. The purpose of the step is to have one kind of variable in the equation to solve for, and then solve for that variable that you see in that equation. Step number 3 is to choose any equation, because a system has two equations. Choose any of those two equations to solve for the other kind of variable that's left, then write the solution as an ordered pair. Step number 4 is to check your solution to make sure that it works for both equations. Now let's practice solving a system of linear equation. I will keep by substitution, and I will keep the steps for you to see. Here's the system, which is x equals 5y plus 3, and the second equation 2x plus 4y equals -1. Let's name them first equation, second equation, so we know which one we're talking about. Step number 1 is to choose an equation to isolate a variable. To isolate a variable means to leave one kind of variable on one side of the equation by itself. And if you notice the first equation, x is on one side by itself, equals 5y plus 3. Put that 5y plus 3 in parentheses and name it expression. Step number 2 is to substitute that expression in the second equation, but replacing the isolated variable. So you are replacing x with that expression, not the y. Now watch how you have one kind of variable in the equation right now, which is y. Let's solve for y by distributive property first, 2 times 5y and 2 times 3, and then bring everything else down. So 10y plus 6 plus 4y equal -1. Now what do? Combine like terms. I have 10y and 4y. If I add them, you get 14y, and then bring everything else down, which is plus 6 equal -1. I need to isolate y still. So what do I get rid of first? The 6. The inverse operation is to subtract 6 from both sides. You get 14y equal -7. 14y means 14 times y. Still y is not isolated, so the inverse operation is to divide both sides by 14. So divide both sides by 14. 14 divided by 14 is 1. 1 times y is y equals -7 divided by 14 is -0.5. So I know now that y equals -0.5. Step number 3 is to choose one equation to solve for the other kind of variable, because now you found y, you need to find the other kind of variable, which is x. You can choose any equation because the value of x should be the same for both equations. But it's easy for me to choose the first one because x is already isolated. So I will choose the first equation, x equal 5y plus 3. Now that I know y equal -0.5, substitute it instead of y in the equation. So x equal 5, and make sure you put it in parentheses because you are multiplying 5 times -0.5 plus 3. Now 5 times -0.5 is -2.5 plus 3. Simplify that, x equal 0.5. So we found the value of x, we found the value of y, now write them as an ordered pair. So your solution is x is 0.5 and y -0.5. Now let's try this real world problem. It will make more sense for you to understand what is a solution of system of linear equation. You buy a total of 50 turkey burgers and veggie burgers for $90 and pay $2 per turkey burger and $1.50 per veggie burger. Write and solve a system of linear equations to find the number x of turkey burgers and the number y of veggie burgers you buy. The first thing to do is to write your clues. What information did they give you that I can use? Clue number 1, total number of burgers is 50. So I have a total of how many burgers I have, which is 50, and how the total of cost, how much money did I spend. So I know I need to write the equations in standard form because I have totals. Now the second clue that I have, the rate of change. How much is it costing you per veggie burger and turkey burger? $2 per one turkey burger and $1.50 per one veggie burger. And that's the rate of change or the slope. Now, what else did they give me? What are you trying to find? Look at the question and underline, what is it you're trying to find? You're trying to find X number of turkey burgers and Y number of veggie burgers. That's why X represents the number of turkey and the Y represents the number of veggie burgers. Now we need to write the equations. Since it's in standard form, the first equation talks about the total number of sandwiches or burgers. X plus Y equal 50 because that's the total number I bought. And I spent $90 on $2 per one turkey burger, that's 2x, plus $1.50 per one veggie burgers, that's 1.5y, equals $90, which is the total I spent. Now let's follow the steps of solving linear equations by substitution. Step number 1 is to isolate a variable. So I don't have an equation that has a variable isolated, but I will choose the first one because it's easier. And I wanted to isolate x, so get rid of the y. To get rid of the y, you subtract y from both sides. You end up with x equal 50 minus y. Now that x is isolated, which means it's on one side of the equation, put the answer in parentheses and name it expression. Step number 2 is to replace that expression in the second equation, but make sure that you are replacing x in the second equation with 50 minus y for that expression. You end up with 2 times, and that's why we put it in parentheses, because you're multiplying. 50 minus y plus $50y equals 90. Now, notice that you have one kind of variable in the equation, which is y. So let's solve for y. Step number 1 for solving for y is distributive property to get rid of the parentheses. 2 times 50 is 100, and 2 times y is 2y. Bring the minus down, plus $50y equals 90. So whatever I don't use, bring it down. Now still, I need to get rid of everything by the y to isolate y. So combine like terms, negative 2y plus $50y equals negative 0.5y. Bring everything else down, which is the 100 equals 90. Now you end up with this equation, but still y is not isolated. So get rid of the 100 first by subtracting 100 from both sides. You end up with negative 0.5y equals negative 10. Still, y not by itself, so I need to get rid of that negative 0.5, which means you multiplying a negative number, which is negative 0.5 times y. The inverse operation is to divide both sides by negative 0.5. Negative 0.5 divided by negative 0.5 is 1, so you bring the y down equal. Negative divided by negative is positive, and 10 divided by half is 20. So what does that 20 means? Y equals 20. What does that mean? Since y represents the number of veggie burgers, that means you bought 20 veggie burgers. Now step number 3 is to find the other kind of variable. So since I found y is 20, now I need to find x. Which equation is easy to use? And I would use the first one because it's much easier than the second one. X plus y equals 50. Now substitute y, because we already found y equals 20. Substitute y in the equation. You end up with x plus 20 equals 50. Isolate x by subtracting 20 from both sides. You end up with x equals 30. What is this x equals 30? What does that mean? It means since x represents the number of turkey burgers, that means you bought 30 turkey burgers. So your solution is going to be 30 and 20. Now let's check to see if the solution 30-20 works by substituting the value of x and the value of y in both equations. So write the equations. Let's start with the first one. X plus y equals 50, replace x with 30, replace y with 20. Does it equal 50? Does the left side equal the right side? 50 equals 50. Yes, it checked. That means that solution worked for the first equation. Now let's check the second equation. Replace x with 30. Replace y with 20, but make sure you put it in parentheses just in case you need to multiply. And you do need to multiply. 2 times 30 is 60, and 1.5 times 20 is 30. Does it equal 90? Add them up, 90 equals 90, it worked. So the solution, x30, y20, works for both equations. That is one solution. That means there's only one value for x, one value for y. That makes both equations true. Not any other value would solve those two equations. So in conclusion, for today's lesson, we learned how to solve a system of linear equation by graphing where the two lines meet, and that would be the solution. And we learned how to solve the system by substitution, and those are the 4 easy steps to solve by substitution. The next lesson, we'll talk about something called elimination to solve a system of linear equation. That's it for today's lesson. You guys have a great day.